Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever episode of Touchdown Tech. I'm Tyler Payne, and this is Adam Hitchcock. In this episode, we're going to be talking about all things Tennessee Tech football, which is kind of what the entire podcast is going to be about. Yep. And we're really excited to get this episode out for you guys and this whole series as a whole. It's just good to be back, isn't it, Adam?
It's great to be back. I've been missing it. I've been missing talking on air. I love it. It's something that, I love doing. So we're here to talk about Tech football, which is, who wouldn't be excited about that?
Yeah, it is an exciting year, I think, because you get a lot of new guys this year coming in the 2025 roster. You got a lot of returning players as well, but it is an exciting roster. But I'm like you. I'm glad to be back. We did the basketball podcast last semester. That was really fun. Yeah. So we're back in the studio talking a little bit of Tech football, and that's kind of our expertise is football.
Football, yeah.
If there's one sport that we know the best, it's definitely football. So I'm excited to be back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Talking about Tech football, it's great. I mean, we literally won the title share. It was a four-way split, but, hey, we won. So what can you say? It's exciting. We're going to see what year two of the Wilder era brings for us.
I agree. I mean, it was really impressive what they did in year one with Coach Wilder and this staff. Kind of just a look back to 2024, they went 7-5. They won a share of the OVC title with TSU, SEMO, UT Martin as other teams that actually shared that title with them, and that was really impressive to see in year one. If you would have told me that preseason that they were going to win the OVC in his first ever year as a head coach at Tech, I would have been very surprised.
Oh, for sure. I mean, no one expected it, but it happened, and now we're here, and now we have to talk about what year two is going to look like. Is it going to be more highs, or are we going to go low?
I agree. Well, the main thing that stands out to me on just the entire roster is depth. You've got more depth this year. You've got more players at different positions that you feel good about. If somebody gets hurt, barring that doesn't happen, we hope it doesn't happen, but that's just the game of football. Yeah. If someone gets hurt and goes out or even just needs a breather, you've got more guys that you can plug in and not miss a beat, and which is really that's paramount if you want to be a good, sustainable football program and win the conference outright this year instead of having to share it, which is probably the goal.
Yeah, a lot of guys that were doing it as the number one or the number two at their school, and now they've transferred here. Now, some of them aren't starting. That's the bad part. We have a lot of talent on this roster. Can't start everyone, but we're going to see who wants it the most, who's going to win. If things don't work out, we got backup plans, so it's nothing to worry about.
I agree, and they have announced one starter so far, a guy named Kakoa Vesperis. The staff has raved about this kid ever since he's got on campus. Ever since he has committed to Tech, you've heard nothing but good about him. Yeah. His ability to run with the football, his ability to throw it, and his decision-making is just uncanny. He led the FCS, the entire FCS, in completion percentage last year was 74%.
That's an insane stat. 74% completion.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to get that on the test,
I know, right? Yeah, that's a C, I think.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of a C.
In football, that's A+.
Yeah. I know. Very impressive statistics from Vesperis for sure. Spent last year at Eastern Washington, and he's the guy. He's the guy moving forward. They've got two more quarterbacks in the depth chart so far, Jace Wilson and Richie Munoz, who they like both those guys as well. I mean, they were both transfer guys that have had experience otherwise at other places, which I think is also important too, especially at the quarterback position. You've got to have experience at that position. And they've got three guys that have been there, done that, and have been the number one guy at their respective schools, and now they're all three at Tech.
Yeah, we got three guys who know what they're doing, that know how to run a system. They've been in a college program before. Hopefully we won't end up like we did last year, starting quarterback goes down, we have to throw in a backup, and then things kind of go downhill from there. We'll see what this, three-man group can do. We'll see if one of them isn't playing well, the other might step up. We might see, one of them go down. That would be very unfortunate. But
of course.
we have depth now. That's great. That's what we need.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Going, flashing back to last year, obviously Dylan Lible was in the same situation as Vesperis is right now. He was the guy going forward. He played against MTSU. He started the game. Unfortunately, went down with an injury. Jordan Potts comes in, the backup, and doesn't light the world on fire, but gets you back in that ball game, makes it a competitive game, a game we really should have won last year at MTSU on the road, and carried us through the rest of the season and did a pretty good job. I mean, you were satisfied with the job that he did at quarterback, talking about Potts. And then Lible came back toward the end of the year, and Tech started doing stuff vertically down the field that you hadn't seen all year. And so, it's good to have that depth. And because you could see yourself in a similar situation this year as you did last year with the unfortunate injury of Dylan Lible.
Yeah, we saw them go more vertical at the end of the year. What we saw throughout the year after Libel's injury was they shared that rock. Mm-hmm. They shared it with a lot of guys, had a lot of rushing yards. Multiple guys had 200 yards. Multiple guys had 100 yards. We had one guy with 700.
Jalen Mitchell, yeah, good player right there.
We shared the rock a lot. That was the good thing that we did last year. We were able to adapt and overcome, a quarterback injury, something that some teams just can't do. But we did it, and we, managed to get a title share. So last season it was rocky, but look what it turned into. What can this year turn into? That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of adversity in year one, some things that didn't go your way, and the team and the coaching staff fought through it and still found a way to win a share of the title at the end of the year, which is very impressive. But going back to the running game last year, like you said, Jalen Mitchell having the majority of the carries, you saw some guys at the receiver positions get some carries on the ground. Tramel Jones, a guy who's back this year, we'll talk about him later. Yeah. He got some carries on the ground. He was kind of a do-it-all guy. Same thing with a guy like Jordan Yates. Yeah. When we had him on the field, we could do kind of whatever we wanted to with him. They'd throw a screen over here to him, and they would just give him the ball. He was a punt returner, kind of a do-it-all guy like Tramel Jones is, and I think can be this year. So it'll be interesting to see what they do offensively. They've got weapons this year like they did last year. Will they go, will they try to get some guys the ball in space like they did with Jones and Yates last year, or will they go more vertical? Because with Vesperis, you can do a lot more now. He's got the arm to throw it 50 yards downfield, or he can throw a little 5-yard hitch, or he can take off and run with it. I mean, there's not a lot that he can't do at the quarterback position. You're not limited with him at all.
Yeah, and not to mention, we have a quarterback that can now throw it downfield. We have new receivers in this receiving room. Mm-hmm. Last year, our main receiver, DJ Lincolns, he, carried the team at the receiver position. Now we have new guys like Noah Robinson, who's coming in, who might be able to make a difference, might give us more options in the passing game. It might open us up, and we might be able to, maybe complete some short stuff with a quarterback that can, throw a lot of completions.
Yeah.
We might be able to shoot it downfield a little bit, maybe get a little air raid going, but we'll see what this coaching staff wants to do with this team.
They have a plethora of different receivers that they can go to. What interests me the most is the body types of these receivers. You got DJ Lincolns, who last year was your guy. He was wide receiver 1. If you needed a play, you went to Lincolns. He's 6'4", 205. You got Noah Robinson, who's 6'3", 195. Both of those guys are deep threats.
Yeah.
Just throw it up and let them go get it. You've got another guy, Mari Sullivan, who's 6'2", around the 200-pound range. He's another guy who could kind of do a little bit of everything. He's gotten a lot of buzz in fall camp as well. And then you got Tramel Jones, who's 5'9", little June bug out there, but he can do it all. He's so quick. So the body types to me at receiver are really interesting because you've got guys that can go down there and get the ball, and you've got guys that's got good hands. Like you said, Noah Robinson, they've raved about him like they have Vesperis ever since he got here from Robert Morris. A big-time get in the transfer portal. He's already projected to be all OVC this year. I mean, it's just good times are coming Tech's way in the passing game, I would say.
Yeah, we're going to see how this passing game can really open up and change now that we have, last year, no offense to anyone that played last year, no offense to it happened last year. We were dealing with a tricky quarterback situation. Mm-hmm. But we had one guy who got a majority of the yards. Now we're going to see if they're going to continue to rely on one receiver, or if we're going to open it up, we're going to get a lot of guys the ball. Maybe we'll have one or two guys that dominate the game. We'll see. This coaching staff has a lot of new toys to play with.
That's a great point. I didn't mean to cut you off right there, but that's a great point. And I think, if you're Brian Scott, the offensive coordinator, your eyes are lighting up right now. And you only have one football. Who are you going to give it to,
Sometimes that's a hard thing to do. If you have a certified number one guy, you can kind of develop the system around him and design it around him. We have a lot of guys who we don't know if they're going to be the number one guy. We don't know how they're going to play every week. We don't know if they have the consistency. We hope they do. But it's going to be interesting to see, especially week 1 against Cumberland. We're going to see who's getting the rock and who isn't.
Yeah, Cumberland will answer a lot of the questions that we have right now about the depth and about just the overall what are the roles going to be like. Yeah. And that'll get better throughout the season like it did last year. The team that you saw last year in week 1 and the team that you saw in about week 8 or 9 were two completely different teams if you go back and watch that 2024 season. I think this season could be like that as well because of all the transfer portal additions. But week 1, you should see kind of who we're wanting to be. What is our identity on offense because we've got so many new players and new toys to play with, like you said. And it's interesting because, I mean, DJ Lincoln was the guy last year. He's kind of got a little position battle on his hands. You got guys like Noah Robinson and Maury Sullivan. They're going to push him. You got guys in year 2 like Luke Shields that they got last year. We'll have to see kind of how that whole wide receiver room meshes as a whole. But I think those top 4 that we mentioned between Lincoln's, Robinson, Sullivan, and Jones, I think they'll get the majority of the catches this year. But, I mean, you could see a new guy pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah, more than likely we'll see those 4 guys. But you never know. Because, again, we have a lot of new players, a lot of guys that transferred in. Those are guys that are, they either started at the school that they were at and maybe they wanted a new experience or something different. They wanted maybe a different scheme. And they know how to, go out there and ball because they were the number 1 guy at their school. Mm-hmm. Or we have guys who are maybe down on their luck, who are trying to prove themselves. Those guys, they're hungry. So we're going to see what this wide receiver room turns into.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's one of the biggest position battles, in my opinion, on the entire team is that wide receiver position. Another position battle that I think, I'm not going to say has already been won by one guy, but I think Brian Courtney at tight end, I think he's going to be the guy that kind of takes that position over. He's a transfer in from Florida State. He played some last year for the Seminoles. They weren't very good, obviously. That was probably one of the worst Florida State teams I've ever had. Yeah. He played some, and he even got a 2-point conversion against Georgia Tech in week 1. But for now, he's playing for Tech, and I think he'll be your mainstay at tight end this year, which is good for an offense to have. It's good for a new quarterback to have. You need a safety valve that you can go to on 3rd and short, and just throw it to the big fella. Yeah. 6'3", 240, I think is how big Courtney is. So that's going to be a good target. Some
big boys on this receiving core.
Yeah. Big, tall receivers is always nice for quarterbacks.
For sure.
Yeah. And then another position that they have just an embarrassment of riches amount of depth that is running back to me. I'm really interested in the running back room. Do they play it this year like they did last year? Last year you saw Jalen Mitchell. He was your workhorse. He was your bell cow. You gave him the ball as many times as you possibly could. Is that going to be Quintel Quinn this year, a guy who's 6'1", 225? He's built a lot like Jalen Mitchell, just a big, stocky running back. Yeah. Or are you going to split it up some more this year because you have more depth there? I think you'll see a split carries situation. Yeah. Aiden Littles, he's a sophomore coming up. He's ready to play. He's all OVC. There's a lot of preseason hype around him. So just kind of what's your take on the running back room as a whole?
Well, I think that's one of the most highly debated things about the running game nowadays is, do you go one back? Do you have a workhorse back, or do you go running back by committee? So that's something that this coaching staff has to figure out. If you have guys that can do it, or you don't have exactly one guy that's, leagues above the rest, then running back by committee is the way to go. But we'll see if any of these guys can stand out. Unfortunately, we don't know yet. We're going to see week 1. But that'll be something that probably changes throughout the season. Maybe if some guy pulls away, shows that he's better than the rest, or it might stay a split carry kind of thing.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think the coaching staff is kind of wondering the same thing me and you are. Is there going to be a guy that emerges that we're going to have to just give him 30 carries a game and he's our guy? Or is it going to be a running back by committee? And can we split these carries? And we're confident enough in 3 or 4 running backs to get the job done? I think that's going to be a good question to get answered as the season goes along.
Yeah.
And, of course, you're going to have the 5 guys up there blocking for them. I like this offensive line. I'll go ahead and say that first and foremost. I'm a line of scrimmage guy. Yeah. I like the offensive line. I like what you have coming back. You got Logan Weedman coming back from last year. He's an all-OVC caliber player. You've got Drew Wilder, son of head coach Bobby Wilder.
That's the most insane thing about that O-line is we got a head coach and a son in college.
Yeah.
You don't see that very often. I mean, we saw it, Deion and Shador Sanders.
And Shiloh, yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone really remember Shiloh?
Shiloh was on the team too. But, no, it's a good story. It's a cool story, and it's cool to see Drew, he's a good player. Like, he's not just – Wilder's not throwing him out there because, that's my boy. He's a good player. He can play at this level. He was all conference last year at Eastern Illinois, and so he's gonna come right in and play. You know what I mean? I think he'll probably be that center position. Going on down the line in the offensive line, you got Wes Delk. He's back from last year. You've got a guy like Nathan Simmons. Mm-hmm. Both those guys are all OVC predictions, and so is Drew Wilder. Almost everybody that we've mentioned today has been selected to the All-OVC team, which is unheard of.
That O-line they're going to eat, and they're going to eat some pancakes because they're going to be putting dudes in the dirt.
I agree. And I think their identity, will that be more of a mauling run blocking offensive line, or will that be more of a finesse group that's going to give Vesperis time to throw? We'll see kind of how that works out in the, as the season goes on, like we keep saying. But that center to quarterback exchange, you hope Drew Wilder and Vesperis, Kikoa Vesperis, you hope that those guys are best friends, because you got to have that quarterback to center exchange. You got to have that on point week one.
Yeah, you want to have a kind of Peyton Manning, Jeff Saturday type of situation, type of relationship. Maybe they chirp at each other every now and again, but you want them to be you want them to be tight. You want them to communicate. So we're going to see what this O-line can do for their quarterback, and we're going to see what this quarterback can do for their O-line.
Yeah, Peyton and Jeff, they definitely had a bittersweet relationship at times, but the only reason they bickered was because they wanted to win. Yeah. So hopefully it's kind of a situation like that.
We need dudes like that on the team. We need dudes who they'll bicker because they want to win.
Yeah.
This team, I mean, they just won the title last year. I don't think they want to win a title share this year. I think they want to win outright.
They want to. That's the goal, and that's kind of what everybody's predicting them to do. They were projected first in the All OVC coaches poll. So we'll see if the preseason hype, will that be too much for this team? Will they kind of take that and will that overwhelm the team, or will they take it and run with it and own it and try to be the best they can be? We'll see. Like Saban used to talk about, that rat poison. That rat poison will get you if you don't watch it. But I don't think this team is like that. I don't think they're going to let it get to them. I think they're just going to go play.
Yeah. The one thing that I do think that this team needs to do is they need to win the title outright. I want them to, because if they win the title outright, that means they will leave the OVC as champions.
That's right.
The big breaking news is Tennessee Tech will be leaving the OVC and heading to the Southern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to hopefully win the title and blow this popsicle stand.
That would be a good way to send it out. That would be, win the title and then just, okay, I'll see y'all later. Moving on to bigger and better things. But that'll be interesting. And we'll kind of get into the schedule reveal here in a minute. UT's Chattanooga is going to be in that Southern Conference. We play them week 2 after Cumberland, so that'll be an interesting game.
That's a little preview to what might happen next year.
I agree.
So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on.
For sure. Well, moving on to defense, you were talking about earlier, you kind of need some dogs on your team. You know what I mean? You kind of need some guys that are going to do anything to win. I think you have some of those guys on defense. I think on offense, you've got some shiny new trophies, and that's all well and good. But on the defensive side of the ball, you've got a little bit more of an edge to you in some of these players. You've got guys like Hudson Tucker that are coming back. His arms are about this big around, so I wouldn't want to block him.
No.
You've got Canston Brooks coming back on the interior defensive line. You got a guy like Theron Gaines, who was a great player last year, won Conference Player of the Week against Gardner-Webb last year because he just tormented that offensive line.
Yeah.
I think you could see him play some linebacker this year. I've seen him in number 9 in fall camp pictures, and it seems like he might be dropping back into coverage every now and then. So he's about 230, 235, so might be seeing him play some linebacker. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, some disguise coverage, stuff like that. Let's see what this defensive coordinator can throw at him. You know? Let's see what this coaching staff wants to do. Do they want to keep it simple, run a basic 4-3 or anything like that? Or are we going to change it up? Are we going to get some fake linebacker blitzes, stuff like that? Are we going to drop a lineman into coverage?
Yeah, it'll be there's a lot of things you can do with this defense. And, a guy that can absolutely do anything on defense and is going to be the play caller and the signal caller for this defense is Aaron Swafford.
Yeah.
You can't have a Tech podcast and not talk about Aaron Swafford. This dude, he's a captain of the team this year. He's your best linebacker coming back. He kind of got dinged up last year with an injury, but he still produced really well. He's just a football player.
Yeah, being dinged up with an injury, and he still, I think, was second in tackling. I mean, that's unheard of. That guy, he's crazy.
You lost some talent defensively. Guys like Daniel Rickert have moved on to go play at Virginia. Miles Parker wound up going to Houston, a defensive tackle. And that does kind of hurt you a little bit, and you wish those guys were back. But I think Tech did a really good job of kind of reloading at those positions.
Yeah.
And I think they're ready for, I think this defense last year was the reason that they were staying in a lot of those games, especially the UT Martin game. When you look back at the UT Martin game when they played them on the road, this defense kind of kept them in that ball game. Offensively, you have more to throw at teams now. We'll see kind of how they play this on defense. Do you have to just – I guess what I'm trying to say is you can play defense differently when you know your offense can score, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you know your offense is going to put up 30 or so points a game, which is kind of what I expect this offense to do. If you know that, you can play defense differently than you can if you know that that offense is going to struggle and only get about 20 points a game.
Yeah, it's something that you really have to see, and we'll see what the offense can do. But this defense, I think they are going to play to the offense's tempo, because that offense is what's going to win us games. I mean, defense wins championships, but you need offense to win games.
Yeah.
So we'll see. In the long run, I think the defense will have more of an impact for this team. But in the short term, we got to see what this offense can do.
I agree. Another guy on defense who you just cannot help but mention is Tim Kutras. That dude,
yes,
he's arguably the best player on the team. As far as production, he's produced well for Tech 2 years in a row now. He's another captain. He's a preseason FCS All-American, which is, I mean, when's the last time you had a Tech All-American not named Tim Kutras? It's been a while.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm really excited about what he does in his last year at Tennessee Tech. The secondary also has guys like Jalen Shepard, who's entering year 2. Omari Filial, he's also coming into year 2. All three of those guys are mentioned in the all OVC list as well. There were 17 players. It's hard to list them all off. I mean, they had a bunch.
Yeah.
And so the secondary is another interesting position that I think can, I won't say make or break the defense, but you know as well as I do is if you have a weak secondary or kind of just a wonky secondary, that can really affect some of the games, you know, and the outcomes of the games.
Having a bad secondary is one of the worst things you can experience as a football fan.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, getting it ran down your throat's one thing, you know, having them ground and pound the ball, that's one thing.
Right.
But watching another team's wide receivers just burn your corners is horrible. It's a horrible feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty demoralizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where a lot of people will score. They'll score vertically in the passing game, and then you like I said, you just feel hopeless. But I don't think that's going to be the case with this secondary. I have high hopes for all three levels on this defense, in my opinion, especially the secondary.
All three are very solid. That's the main thing to take away. There's not I don't think one position that carries another, you know.
I agree.
It's not like the linebackers are making up for the D-line, or it's not like the D-line is keeping so much pressure that the safeties don't have to worry about nothing. I think this whole team balance out each other really well, and I think that's why they work so well.
I agree. Well, you got a mixture of talent in the transfer portal and guys that are coming back at all three levels of defense. You know what I mean? Like your Hudson Tuckers and your Canston Brooks on the defensive line. Move to the linebackers. You got Aaron Swafford, who's really probably the leader of the entire team. Move to the secondary. Got those three guys that we just mentioned, you know, Kutras, Filial, and Shepard. All those guys are coming back. So it's good to have that experience on defense. It's good to have guys that know kind of how Coach Wilder and the defensive staff want to run this program. It's just different when you've already been through it for a year, when you're just brand new to the team. If you're a transfer portal guy, you don't really know how things are run around here. But I mean, by now they've figured it out. They've already went through spring practice and fall camp, so they're ready to go. Yeah. So week 1, Saturday, August 30th against Cumberland. How do you see that game shaping out against the Phoenix on opening kickoff day?
Well, I don't want to say, you know, it's going to be an easy win. It's because nothing's an easy win. But this game is going to be interesting because it's going to be us trying to feel each other. Like, we're going to fill out Cumberland. We're going to try to see what they're bringing to the table. We're also going to try to figure out who's working at what position, what we kind of need to do, what's working and what isn't.
Yeah.
It's going to be a game about discovering yourself. This team's got to discover its identity pretty quick because we have a lot of things that have changed. So you have a lot of things that are kind of uncertain. You got to figure them out pretty quick or you're going to end up dead in the water by week 4, you know.
I agree with you. I don't think Tech is overlooking Cumberland by any stretch of the imagination. I do think, though, that if you want to be realistic about this game as a football fan, I think this is a good game, to kind of see where you're at with your depth. You've talked about your depth all offseason. Put them out there on display and kind of see who can play and who can't in a live game. I think this is a perfect game for them to do that. I don't know. I'm not going to make any predictions on the game because I don't want to assume. But I think in the beginning, you know, there's a possibility that Tech may struggle for a quarter or two, but I think towards the end of the ball game, most cases from what I've seen in football years past, the better team will pull away as the game goes on. And then hopefully, if that is the case, you can get some young guys in there and some backups, get them experience, like we said, and really find out what kind of depth do you really have on your team. Yeah. I think that'll be an interesting key point to look out for.
Now, what I'm interested in is week 2. Because week 2, we played Chattanooga at home. And Chattanooga is They're in the Southern Conference.
They are.
So that's another preview of what next year is going to look like. We're going to see if we can hang with these new guys or, what's going to happen. I think that we can hang with them. My personal opinion.
I think so too.
But we'll see. It's going to be challenging. There's nothing easy about it.
I do think that's a good matchup, and I think that's a good scheduling job by whoever does the scheduling, whether it's the athletic director. I'm not sure. But I think that's a good scheduling job by whoever did that, because Cumberland, you kind of find out like what you had on your team, like we just mentioned. Chattanooga is a team that is, to me, more well-equipped to match Tech. Offensively, defensively, line of scrimmage-wise. I think that is a much tighter comparison in terms of roster for roster. And I think that'll be a good test for both teams to kind of see what you have on your football team. That way, by the time conference play rolls around on September 27th at TSU, you'll kind of have an idea of how can we play when the going gets tough. And the going may not get tough. I don't know. They might run through the first three. I don't really know.
We'll see.
I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah, this team, that's the thing about, previewing. We have nothing to go off of, so we're about to see what this team's going to turn into.
Yeah.
We can speculate a lot, but for the most part, we don't know.
Regardless, though, the excitement is there. I'm excited about this Tennessee Tech team. I've told everybody that's going to listen to me, I'm going to dive head first in coverage of this team because I think they can be really good.
You're like a rambling old man. You'll talk to Tech football about anything.
Talk to anybody about it. You come up to me on the street and ask me, I'll tell you how good Tech's going to be this year.
Yeah.
But you got Gardner-Webb for homecoming on November 1st. That'll be interesting. Tech demolished them on the road last year. I think Gardner-Webb will probably be better this year. Fast forward 2 more weeks, you got Kentucky on the road, an SEC opponent. That's going to be interesting. Because I'll go ahead and say it right now. I have no obligation to Kentucky. I think Kentucky is going to be the worst team in the SEC this year. That's just my personal opinion. So that'll be interesting.
As a Tennessee fan, I already think they're the worst team in the SEC, regardless of how good they play. So
yeah, that's kind of a natural thing for you. Yeah. Well, then after that, you got UT Martin at home. That's going to be senior day. That game right there will have a lot of magnitude around it because of how the game ended last year. That was an upset. Tech went on the road and just took one from them, which is kind of what catapulted them into that spot to tie with the OVC, the championship, and get a share of that title. That was the game to do it, and that'll be a really interesting game right there. UT Martin senior day at home at 12 p.m. kickoff. That'll be very interesting. I'm excited for that. That's probably the game I'm most excited for the entire schedule.
Yeah,
UT Martin.
They're all exciting. I mean, every single game on this schedule is exciting, whether it's because we might play them next year. Or is it because, we need to win the conference game? Or is it because it's Kentucky and we're going to get paid a lot of money?
Yeah.
But I do think even games like Kentucky, we're still going to put up a fight. And that's just always a great experience. Send your guys out against an SEC opponent. That's how you learn who's a dog and who isn't. Yeah,
I do. I agree with you. I think they will compete against Kentucky, and I truly do believe that. I had a professor that I talked to yesterday said that he thinks we're going to beat Kentucky. So if he knows football more than I do, which I hope he does, I hope he's right, then we're going to go down to Lexington, Kentucky, and take care of business and beat an SEC school. So that'll be interesting. But regardless, like we said, excitement is in the air for 2025 for Tennessee Tech football. You got Cumberland this Saturday, August 30th at 12 p.m. in Tucker Stadium. We're going to have full coverage of that game this time next week for that podcast. That'll be a good podcast episode. We'll actually be able to kind of figure out what this team has.
Yeah, something to actually talk about, not just speculate about.
Exactly. We have actually stuff to report and not just, assume. But that's going to do it for episode 1 of Touchdown Tech. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Join us in week 2 for a recap of the Cumberland game. And hopefully we can do this every single week and keep the coverage up for the entire year. So see you guys in the next episode.